My name is Samantha, and at 32, I never expected my own mother would try to steal from me. When I withdrew $10 million cash to buy my dream home, I thought keeping it overnight in my mother Eleanor's safe was the smartest choice. The next morning, I woke to an empty house, the safe cleared out, and a text message: "Thanks for your money. Now we can live our dream life." But as I stared at my phone, I started laughing uncontrollably. If you have ever been betrayed by family, comment below where you are watching from and hit subscribe. Trust me, you will want to hear how this ends. I grew up in a middle-class neighborhood in Seattle where appearances always mattered more than reality. Our house looked perfect from the outside, but inside it was filled with tension and unfulfilled dreams. My mother Eleanor worked as a bank teller, a job she constantly complained about while dreaming of wealth and luxury. She would flip through magazines showing mansions and exotic vacations, sighing dramatically and saying, "This should have been my life." My younger sister Brittany was the golden child from the moment she was born. With her natural charm and pretty face, she could wrap anyone around her finger, especially our mother. While I buried myself in books and computers, Brittany was taking dance lessons, competing in beauty pageants, and being showered with attention. Eleanor would beam with pride, watching Brittany perform, then glance at me with that look that said, "Why cannot you be more like your sister?" Our father died when I was 12, and Brittany was 9. He had a decent life insurance policy that should have secured our future education, but within 2 years, the money had mysteriously disappeared. New furniture, a luxury cruise for Eleanor and Brittany, designer clothes, and suddenly there was nothing left for my college fund. By 15, I had taught myself coding and started fixing computers for neighbors to earn money. Eleanor would roll her eyes whenever she saw me working late on programming projects. "Still playing with your little computer games, Samantha," she would say dismissively. "You will never make real money that way." When college application time came, I applied for every scholarship possible and worked 3 part-time jobs to cover what the scholarships did not. Meanwhile, Eleanor somehow found money to send Brittany to an exclusive arts academy that cost $40,000 a year. When I questioned where the money came from, Eleanor snapped, "Brittany has real talent worth investing in." Those words cut deep, but they also fueled my determination. While studying computer science, I developed a software application that streamlined inventory management for small businesses. My first client was a local bookstore owner who took a chance on my program. When it increased their efficiency by 30% word spread, by my senior year I had 10 clients, and the foundation of what would become my company. The nights were endless. After classes and my campus job, I would code until 3 or 4 in the morning, surviving on cheap coffee and determination. There were moments when exhaustion made me question everything, but the memory of Eleanor's dismissive glances kept me going. I would prove her wrong. After graduation, I declined job offers from tech giants to focus on growing my own business. I converted my tiny studio apartment into an office, sleeping on a futon that doubled as my couch. For the first 2 years, I barely broke even, putting every cent back into development. The relationship with my family grew increasingly strained as my business slowly gained traction. When I missed Brittany's gallery opening because I was finalizing a major client contract, Eleanor did not speak to me for 3 months. When I could not afford the expensive Christmas gifts they expected, Eleanor made pointed comments about my failed business experiment. Brittany was subtler but equally damaging. "I just do not understand why you work so hard when you have nothing to show for it," she would say with feigned concern. "You know, Eleanor could probably get you a teller position at her bank. At least it would be steady income." Each family gathering became a psychological minefield. Eleanor would showcase Brittany's minor achievements while dismissing my small business victories. If I mentioned signing a new client, Eleanor would immediately change the subject to Brittany's latest art commission. If I shared news about a successful product launch, Eleanor would sigh and say, "That is nice, dear, but when are you going to get a real job with benefits?" The pattern was clear. Eleanor saw me as competition for Brittany, not as a daughter with her own path. She would manipulate situations to maintain her narrative that Brittany was the successful one, the daughter worth bragging about, while I was the disappointment. Despite this emotional gauntlet, I persisted. Each dismissal, each comparison, each backhanded compliment became another brick in the foundation of my resilience. I stopped sharing my business developments with them, stopped seeking their approval, and focused entirely on proving myself right, not proving them wrong. This was the backdrop against which I built my company, one client and one sleepless night at a time. Little did I know that the emotional patterns established in those early years would culminate in a betrayal I could never have imagined but perhaps should have expected all along. 10 years after launching my software company from that tiny studio apartment, I had built it into an industry leader. We specialized in security solutions for financial institutions, ironically inspired by all those years listening to Eleanor complain about the outdated systems at her bank. Our client list included regional banks across 3 states, and our annual revenue had just crossed the $20 million mark. The turning point came when a major tech conglomerate approached me with an acquisition offer. Their initial proposal valued my company at $80 million, with the condition that I would stay on as CEO for at least 3 years post-acquisition. After weeks of negotiations and sleepless nights weighing my options, I decided to accept a modified deal. I would sell 60% of the company, but retain controlling interest in the remaining 40%. The deal closed on a rainy Tuesday in April. As I sat in my attorney's office watching the final documents being signed, a strange feeling washed over me. This was success by any objective measure, yet I felt oddly hollow. I had spent a decade proving myself, but to whom Eleanor and Brittany had long since stopped asking about my business, assuming it was still the little project I worked on in my spare time. That evening, scrolling through real estate listings in my downtown condo, I made a decision. I would buy my dream home, the kind of place that represented not just success but permanence and security, everything I had worked for. I called Stephanie, a real estate agent recommended by my attorney, and set up a meeting for the following day. Stephanie was refreshingly straightforward. "Tell me exactly what you are looking for, no holding back," she said over coffee. I described a historic property with character, privacy, and enough space for both living and entertaining. "I want a home that feels like it has stories to tell," I explained. "And a library. Definitely a library with floor-to-ceiling bookshelves." After viewing 7 properties, we found it a restored Victorian mansion on 3 acres overlooking Lake Washington. Built in 1896 by a lumber baron, it had been meticulously updated while preserving its historical charm. Bay windows, a wraparound porch, original hardwood floors, and yes, a magnificent library with hand-carved bookshelves. The asking price was $9.8 million. "It is perfect," I whispered to Stephanie as we stood in the master bedroom with its panoramic lake view. "I want to make an offer immediately." That is when things got complicated. The seller, an elderly woman moving to Europe to live with her daughter, had specific requirements. "She wants an all-cash deal and a fast closing," Stephanie explained. "There are other interested parties, but she will accept $9.5 million if you can close within 2 weeks and pay in cash." I agreed immediately and called Thomas at First Western Bank, where I had done business since opening my company. "I need to withdraw $9.5 million in cash," I told him. There was a long silence on the other end of the line. "Samantha, that is a highly unusual request," Thomas finally said. "May I ask what this is for?" I explained about the house and the seller's requirements. "Have you considered a cashier's check or wire transfer?" he asked. "Carrying that much cash presents enormous risks." "The seller is insistent," I replied. "She has some complicated tax situation involving foreign accounts and wants physical cash. I know it sounds strange, but this house is exactly what I have been looking for." Thomas scheduled a meeting for the following day to discuss the logistics. When I arrived at the bank, he ushered me into a private conference room where he had prepared a detailed presentation on the risks of such a large cash transaction. "There are security concerns, insurance issues, and practical considerations," he explained, showing me charts and graphs illustrating cash robbery statistics. "And then there is the matter of counting and verifying such a sum. It would take hours and require multiple bank employees to witness." I listened patiently, then said, "I understand all the risks, Thomas, but this is the only way to secure this property. I will take full responsibility." After several more attempts to dissuade me, Thomas reluctantly agreed to arrange the withdrawal for the following week. We will need to notify the regional office, and possibly even the Treasury Department, he explained. Transactions over $10,000 are automatically reported, and one of this magnitude will raise numerous flags. As I left the bank, my phone rang. It was Eleanor. We had not spoken in nearly 2 months, not since our last strained dinner, where she had spent the evening showing me pictures of Brittany's latest art installation, while asking pointed questions about my little computer business. "Samantha, darling, I was just thinking about you," she said with unusual warmth. "We have not seen you in ages. Why do not you come for dinner this weekend?" I hesitated, then thought about the cash withdrawal planned for the following week. My downtown condo had decent security, but nothing compared to Eleanor's house in the suburbs. After my father's death, she had installed a comprehensive security system, including a state-of-the-art safe in her bedroom closet, far better than anything I had at home. "Actually, Mom, I would love to come over," I said. "I have some exciting news to share." "Wonderful," she exclaimed. "Sunday at 6, I will make your favorite pot roast." As I hung up, I felt a twinge of satisfaction imagining Eleanor's face when I told her about my success. After years of dismissal and doubt, I would finally have tangible proof that my little computer games had amounted to something after all. And more importantly, I would have a secure place to store the cash overnight before meeting with the seller's attorney on Monday. What I did not realize then was that this decision, this simple solution to a temporary storage problem, would set in motion a chain of events that would forever change my understanding of family trust and the true nature of the people I had spent my life trying to please. Sunday evening arrived, and I pulled into Eleanor's driveway with a sense of nervous anticipation. The house looked the same as always, a well-maintained colonial with perfect landscaping, the embodiment of suburban respectability. As I approached the front door, carrying an expensive bottle of wine, I noticed it swing open before I could ring the bell. "Samantha," Brittany exclaimed, pulling me into an enthusiastic hug. "It has been forever." I stiffened, slightly surprised by both her presence and the unusual display of affection. Brittany and I had maintained a polite but distant relationship for years. The last time we had spoken, nearly 3 months ago, she had called to borrow $2,000 for art supplies, a loan that, like all the others, had never been repaid. "I did not know you would be here," I said, following her into the familiar foyer. "Mom called and said you had big news," she replied with a smile that did not quite reach her eyes. "I would not miss it for the world." Eleanor emerged from the kitchen wearing an apron and a bright smile. "There is my successful daughter," she announced, embracing me warmly. Her perfume was overwhelming, something new and expensive that caught in my throat. The house was immaculate, even more so than usual. Fresh flowers adorned every surface, and I noticed new artwork on the walls, including what appeared to be one of Brittany's abstract paintings in a costly frame. The dining room table was set with Eleanor's best china and crystal items typically reserved for major holidays. "You have gone to a lot of trouble," I observed as Eleanor poured wine into delicate glasses. "Nothing is too good for my brilliant daughter," she replied, with a smile that seemed forced. "Now tell us this exciting news." I took a sip of wine, watching them carefully. "I sold 60% of my company for $48 million, I said evenly. "And I am buying a house, a $9.5 million Victorian on Lake Washington." The silence that followed was deafening. Eleanor's wineglass froze halfway to her lips, and Brittany's smile flickered momentarily before returning at full wattage. $48 million, Eleanor finally whispered. "Your little software company is worth that much." I nodded, taking another sip of wine to hide my satisfaction at their shocked expressions. "The house closes next week. That is actually why I wanted to come over tonight. I need to withdraw the money in cash tomorrow, and I was hoping I could store it in your safe overnight before meeting with the attorneys on Monday." Eleanor's eyes widened. "Cash. You are carrying $9 million in cash." $9.5 million, I corrected. "The seller wants physical cash. It is unusual, I know, but necessary for the deal." "Of course you can use the safe," Eleanor said quickly, her voice higher than normal. "It would be much more secure here than in your condo downtown." Brittany leaned forward, her expression eager. "How exactly does that work? The bank just gives you millions in cash." It is a complicated process, I explained. They have to order the currency in advance. There will be security protocols, paperwork, that sort of thing. Which bank are you using? Eleanor asked, casually serving the pot roast she had prepared. First Western Downtown Branch, I replied, noticing how she and Brittany exchanged a quick glance. Thomas Miller is handling everything personally. The conversation throughout dinner was strained and artificial. Eleanor asked detailed questions about my company, the acquisition and my finances, topics she had studiously avoided for years. Brittany, meanwhile, seemed unnaturally interested in my daily schedule. So, after you get the cash, you will bring it straight here, she asked, twirling her wine glass between her fingers. That is the plan, I confirmed. The bank appointment is at 3. I should be here by 5, assuming everything goes smoothly. After dinner, Eleanor insisted on showing me the safe again, though I had seen it many times before. We had it upgraded last year, she explained, opening her bedroom closet to reveal the steel door embedded in the wall. It is fireproof and connected to the security system. If anyone tries to break in, the police are automatically notified. Perfect, I said, watching as she demonstrated the digital keypad. I will only need it for one night. Later, as I helped clear the dishes, I overheard a whispered conversation from the hallway. Pressing myself against the kitchen wall, I strained to listen. Cannot believe it, Brittany was saying. All these years. Shh, Eleanor hissed. We need to be smart about this. Call him tonight and tell him the plans have changed. When I emerged from the kitchen, they sprang apart, Brittany immediately busying herself with adjusting a flower arrangement, while Eleanor smiled too brightly. More wine, darling, she offered, already refilling my glass. On the drive home, an uneasy feeling settled in my stomach. I called Jessica my best friend since college, and the only person who truly understood my complicated family dynamics. They were being nice to you, she asked incredulously when I described the evening, both of them, at the same time. Disturbingly nice, I confirmed, and they kept asking questions about the money, how I was transporting it, when exactly I would arrive with it, all the security details. Sam, you cannot be serious about leaving millions in cash with them, Jessica said, her voice tight with concern. After everything they have put you through. I know how it sounds, I sighed, but what choice do I have? My condo building has teenagers coming and going, at all hours, delivery people, maintenance workers. Eleanor's house has a state-of-the-art security system, and a safe that could withstand a bomb. There was a long pause before Jessica spoke again. Just be careful, Sam. People do crazy things when that much money is involved. Even family. Especially family. After hanging up, I sat in my parked car staring up at my condo building. Jessica's warning echoed in my mind, merging with the strange behavior I had witnessed at dinner. For the first time, I allowed myself to fully consider a possibility I had been pushing away all evening. What if Eleanor and Brittany were planning to steal the money? The thought should have been absurd. These were my mother and sister, my blood. But as I recalled Eleanor's sudden interest in my finances, Brittany's unusual appearance at dinner, their whispered conversation, and the calculating looks they had exchanged when they thought I was not watching, a cold certainty settled over me. I reached for my phone again, this time making a very different call, one that would set in motion a plan of my own. The truth was, I had been suspicious of Eleanor and Brittany's intentions long before our Sunday dinner. Their sudden interest when I mentioned the money was merely confirmation of what I had already feared. Years of watching Eleanor's manipulative behavior had taught me to anticipate her actions. The way she had always borrowed from my childhood savings for Brittany's dance competitions, how family heirlooms meant for me mysteriously disappeared, how she had drained my father's life insurance while claiming poverty when it came to my education. All these patterns had established a clear picture. 3 days before our dinner, immediately after deciding to buy the house, I had arranged a private meeting with Thomas at the bank. We met after hours in a conference room with no windows and a single door. What I am about to ask you is unusual, I began, but I need your absolute discretion. Thomas nodded, his expression concerned but professional. Of course. I need to appear to withdraw $9.5 million in cash, I explained. But I do not want the actual cash. His eyebrows shot up. I do not understand. I have reason to believe someone might try to steal the money, I continued. I need to create a convincing decoy. After explaining my suspicions about Eleanor and Brittany, Thomas leaned back in his chair, his expression grave. What you are describing is a complex form of entrapment. The bank cannot officially be involved in something like this. I understand, I said. That is why I came to you privately. I need movie prop money, the kind used in films. It looks convincing at first glance but is clearly fake upon inspection. Thomas was silent for a long moment. As your friend, not your banker, I might know someone who works in film production, he finally said. They might be able to help you obtain prop money privately. But Samantha, are you absolutely certain this is necessary? Unfortunately, yes, I replied, thinking of all the times Eleanor had chosen her own comfort over my well-being. I also need to take precautions with the real money. The next day I met with my attorney, William Parker, and transferred the $9.5 million into a secure escrow account that only I could access. William prepared all the necessary paperwork for the house purchase, with contingencies in place regardless of what happened with the cash decoy. This paperwork confirms the money is safely in escrow, William explained, handing me a sealed envelope. Keep it somewhere separate from the decoy cash. Meanwhile, Thomas's contact in film production delivered 10 stacks of prop $100 bills. Each stack was designed to look like $100,000 with real bills on the top and bottom and fake bills in between. At quick glance, especially when bundled inside a security bag, they would appear to be genuine cash bricks. Only upon careful inspection would the warning text for motion picture use only become visible on each fake bill. I purchased a high-end security camera disguised as a smoke detector and arranged for a private security contractor to install it in Eleanor's bedroom, positioned with a clear view of the safe. The installer, a former military security expert named Jason, placed it while Eleanor was at her weekly hair appointment. This model transmits directly to your secure cloud storage, Jason explained. It is activated by motion and will record for 5 minutes after any movement in the room. You will receive alert notifications on your phone. I also purchased a GPS tracking device and carefully concealed it within the lining of the security bag that would hold the fake cash. The tracker was linked to an app on my phone that would update the bag's location every 30 seconds. As a final precaution, I installed a voice recording app on my phone and made sure it was running throughout the Sunday dinner with Eleanor and Brittany. Every question they asked about the money, every detail of their unusual behavior was now documented. The morning of the bank appointment, I called Detective Derek Johnson, an old college friend who now worked in the Financial Crimes Division of the Seattle Police Department. I need to make you aware of a situation, I said after explaining my suspicions. I am not filing a report yet, but I want this on record in case my concerns prove valid. Let me get this straight, Derek said slowly. You believe your mother and sister might try to steal what they think is $9.5 million in cash? Yes, I replied. I have taken precautions, including using prop money as a decoy. The real funds are secure in my attorney's escrow account. Smart move, he admitted. But family theft cases are complicated. Without solid evidence of their intentions beforehand, it becomes a matter of conflicting claims. That is why I have installed surveillance in my mother's bedroom with a clear view of the safe, I explained. If they attempt to take the money, it will be recorded. Derek sighed heavily. You have certainly been thorough. Send me all the documentation of your precautions and the real money transfer. If something happens, it will help establish your credibility. After finishing the call, I sat quietly in my home office, staring at the security bag filled with fake cash. The knowledge that I was deliberately setting a trap for my own mother and sister sat heavily in my chest. Part of me hoped desperately that I was wrong, that they would prove me paranoid and overly suspicious. But another part, the part shaped by years of their manipulation and selfishness, knew better. The eager gleam in Eleanor's eyes when I mentioned the money, the calculating way Brittany had questioned me about security measures, their whispered conversation in the hallway, all confirmed what I had always known deep down. When it came to Eleanor and Brittany, self-interest would always win out over family loyalty. As I prepared to leave for the bank, I checked each element of my plan once more. The real money was safely in escrow. The prop money looked convincing in its security bag. The surveillance camera was operational, sending test footage to my cloud account. The GPS tracker was active, showing the bag's current location in my condo. All the documentation was backed up in multiple secure locations and shared with both William and Derek. Everything was in place. Now I just had to play my part convincingly and wait to see if my mother and sister would reveal their true characters once and for all. Monday morning dawned bright and clear. I woke early, mentally preparing for the day ahead. At 9 a.m., I received a text from Eleanor. "Looking forward to seeing you this afternoon, darling. Drive safely with your precious cargo." I smiled grimly at the transparent concern and texted back a simple, "Thanks, see you around 5. The bank appointment went exactly as planned. Thomas had arranged for several security officers to be present as he handed me the security bag filled with prop money. We went through all the motions of a legitimate high-value cash withdrawal, signing paperwork, and verifying amounts, all while being recorded by the bank's security cameras. "Are you sure about this?" Thomas whispered, as we completed the final forms. I nodded slightly. "Unfortunately, yes, but this way I will know for certain." With the security bag tucked under my arm, I left the bank, escorted by 2 guards who walked me to my car. Anyone watching would have believed I was now carrying millions in cash. I placed the bag in my trunk, locked it securely, and drove directly to Eleanor's house, arriving precisely at 5 p.m., as promised. Eleanor greeted me at the door with unusual enthusiasm, ushering me inside where Brittany was coincidentally visiting again. "Did everything go smoothly?" Eleanor asked, her eyes repeatedly darting to my hands, searching for the bag. "It is in the trunk," I explained. I did not want to walk up the driveway carrying it. "I will help you," Brittany volunteered immediately, already heading for the door. "No need," I said firmly. "I can manage." I retrieved the security bag and brought it inside, aware of their eyes following my every movement. As we walked to Eleanor's bedroom, I could feel the tension radiating from both of them. "The combination is still 63925, right?" I asked as Eleanor opened her closet to reveal the safe. "Yes, though I rarely use it these days," she replied with a casual wave that contradicted the intensity in her eyes. I entered the combination, swung open the heavy door, and placed the security bag inside, making sure they both clearly saw me do it. "There," I said, closing the safe with a definitive click. "Safe and sound until tomorrow." Eleanor placed her hand on my shoulder. "You must be starving after such a stressful day. I have made lasagna, your favorite." The evening that followed was surreal. Eleanor and Brittany were excessively attentive, refilling my wine glass at every opportunity and steering the conversation toward my plans for the next day. "So, what time are you meeting the attorneys tomorrow?" Brittany asked for the 3rd time. 9:30, I replied patiently. "But I will probably leave here around 8 to avoid traffic." "You should stay overnight," Eleanor suggested suddenly. "Your old room is always ready. That way you would not have to drive back and forth." The invitation was so transparent I almost laughed. "Thanks, but I have an early conference call I need to take from my home office. Besides, I have already imposed enough by using your safe." Around 9 p.m., I feigned a yawn. "I should get going. Tomorrow is a big day." Both looked momentarily panicked. "Are you sure you cannot stay for one more drink?" Eleanor pressed. "We have barely had time to catch up." "Unfortunately, I really need to go," I insisted, gathering my purse. "But thank you for dinner and for keeping the money safe overnight." As I drove away, I checked the GPS tracking app. The security bag was exactly where it should be, inside Eleanor's safe. The hidden camera was transmitting properly, showing an empty bedroom. Everything was in place. At home, I set up my laptop to receive alerts from both the GPS tracker and the surveillance camera. Then I called Jessica to update her. "So now we wait?" she asked after I explained everything. "Now we wait," I confirmed, "though I doubt it will be long." I was right. At 2:45 a.m., my phone buzzed with multiple alerts. The motion detector on the bedroom camera had been triggered. Opening the surveillance app, I watched in real time as Eleanor and Brittany crept into the bedroom, whispering excitedly to each other. "Hurry up, Mom," Brittany urged as Eleanor opened the closet and approached the safe. I am hurrying, Eleanor snapped her fingers, dancing across the keypad. Do you have the bags ready? Brittany held up 2 small suitcases, all packed. The tickets are confirmed for 7 a.m. The safe door swung open, and Eleanor reached inside, pulling out the security bag with an expression of reverent awe. I cannot believe she was stupid enough to trust us with this, she whispered, placing the bag on the bed. She always thought she was so much smarter than everyone, Brittany replied with a sneer, little Miss Perfect with her fancy company and millions of dollars. Eleanor unzipped the bag, revealing the stacks of cash inside. Oh my God, she breathed. It is really here. They began dividing the money between the 2 suitcases, not bothering to count it in their haste. Their movements were frantic, almost manic, as they stuffed the stacks inside. We need to hurry, Eleanor said, glancing at her watch. The car service will be here in 20 minutes. What about the note? Brittany asked. Eleanor pulled a folded piece of paper from her pocket, already written. We will text her once we are at the airport. I watched, oddly calm, as they finished packing, zipped the suitcases, and left the bedroom. The camera continued recording the empty room for 5 minutes before shutting off. Switching to the GPS tracker, I watched as the signal began moving, leaving Eleanor's house and heading toward Seattle-Tacoma International Airport. I picked up my phone and called Derek. They took the bait, I said simply. The GPS shows them heading to the airport now. Do you want me to intercept them? He asked. I considered this for a moment. Number. Let them go. I want to see how far they are willing to take this. At 5:30 a.m., my phone chimed with a text message from Eleanor's number. Thanks for your money. Now we can live our dream life. Do not bother trying to find us. I stared at the message, a strange mixture of emotions washing over me. Despite my preparations, despite knowing this was exactly what would happen, seeing the betrayal executed so coldly was still shocking. These were the people who were supposed to love me unconditionally, who should have celebrated my success rather than plotting to steal from me. And yet, as I sat alone in my condo watching the GPS tracker show their progress through airport security, I felt an unexpected sensation bubbling up inside me, laughter. Not bitter or hysterical, but genuine amusement at the cosmic irony of it all. They thought they had outsmarted me, the daughter they had always underestimated, never realizing they were the ones being played. I called Michael, who answered groggily. Sam, is everything okay? It is not even 6 a.m. They did it, I said, my voice steady. They stole the money and ran just like I predicted. Jesus, he muttered. I will be right over. As I waited for him to arrive, I watched the GPS signal remain stationary at gate C-16. I pulled up the airport schedule and confirmed what I had suspected, Flight 173 to Cancun departing at 7 a.m. A non-extradition country with beautiful beaches where millions of dollars could buy a very comfortable lifestyle. Michael arrived 30 minutes later, his face tight with concern. Are you okay? He asked, pulling me into a hug. I stepped back and looked him in the eyes. Honestly, I am better than okay. For the first time in my life, I know exactly where I stand with them. No more pretending, no more mind games. Just the pure, simple truth: they would steal from me without hesitation if given the chance. He looked at me uncertainly. But they are your family. This has to hurt. It does, I admitted. But not in the way you might think. I am not hurt because they tried to steal from me. I am hurt because I always knew they would, and now I have proof. I showed him the surveillance footage, the GPS tracker, and Eleanor's text message. As he absorbed it all, his expression shifted from concern to disbelief. What happens when they realize it is fake money? He asked. I smiled grimly. That is when the real show begins. The GPS tracker showed Eleanor and Brittany's flight landing in Cancun at 11:30 that morning. I monitored their movement through the airport and into a taxi, which took them to an upscale beachfront resort. Meanwhile, I went ahead with my day as planned, meeting with William and the seller's attorney to complete the purchase of my dream home using the real money that had been safely in escrow all along. Congratulations, William said as we finalized the paperwork. Despite the unusual circumstances, you are now the proud owner of one of Seattle's most beautiful historic properties. Thank you, I replied, feeling a weight lift from my shoulders. It has been quite a journey. I did not tell William that part of that journey was currently unfolding thousands of miles away on a Mexican beach. Instead, I focused on the practical details of my new home, arranging for utilities to be connected and security systems to be installed. Throughout the day, I continued monitoring the GPS signal which remained at the resort. That evening, I received an Instagram notification. Brittany had posted a photo of herself lounging by an infinity pool, champagne glass in hand, with the caption, "Living my best life." Minutes later, Eleanor posted her own photo shopping bags from Gucci, Prada, and Louis Vuitton arranged artfully on a hotel bed. Her caption read, "Finally getting the life I deserve." I screenshot both posts and sent them to Derek, who replied immediately, "They are not even trying to hide. Have they contacted you directly?" "Not yet," I texted back. "But they will when they try to deposit the money." Sure enough, the next morning the GPS signal began moving again, this time to a location in downtown Cancun that I quickly identified as the main branch of an international bank. 2 hours later, my phone rang with a blocked number. I answered and put it on speaker so Michael, who had come over for moral support, could hear. "You think you are so clever, do not you?" Eleanor's voice hissed through the speaker. Her usual controlled tone was gone, replaced by raw fury. "Hello to you too, Mom," I replied calmly, "enjoying Mexico." "You set us up," she screamed. "The money is fake, movie props." The bank laughed in our faces. "Is that right?" I asked innocently. "How embarrassing for you." "Where is the real money?" Brittany demanded, apparently also on the call. "We know you withdrew it." "The real money is exactly where it should be," I replied. "In a secure escrow account that was used today to purchase my new home. The paperwork is already finalized." There was a moment of stunned silence before Eleanor spoke again, her voice now calculating. "Samantha, darling, there has been a terrible misunderstanding. We were only trying to protect you. We were going to surprise you with an investment opportunity in Mexico, a beautiful property you could use as a vacation home." I could not help but laugh at the transparent lie. "Is that why you left a note saying thanks for your money and told me not to try finding you?" "That was Brittany's idea of a joke," Eleanor said quickly. "You know how her artistic temperament leads to poor judgment sometimes." "Hey," Brittany protested in the background. "Enough," I said firmly. "I have the entire theft on video from the hidden camera in your bedroom. I have GPS tracking data showing your movements. I have your social media posts about your new beginnings and the life you deserve. And I have this phone call, which I am recording with your knowledge as of right now." Another silence, longer this time. "What do you want?" Eleanor finally asked, her voice tight. "Nothing," I replied honestly. "I do not want anything from either of you ever again. I just wanted to know once and for all who you really are. And now I do." "So what happens now?" Brittany asked, a note of fear creeping into her voice. "That depends on you," I said. "You have two choices. You can come back and face the consequences of your actions, or you can stay where you are and live with what you have, which is essentially nothing." "You would really press charges against your own mother?" Eleanor asked incredulously. "You would really steal $10 million from your own daughter," I countered. The line went quiet except for muffled whispering between them. Finally, Eleanor spoke again. "We will come back," she said stiffly. "We have nothing here anyway. The hotel is demanding payment, and we wasted what little cash we had on shopping and first-class flights." "I will let Detective Johnson know to expect you," I replied. "He will meet your flight at SEA TAC." After hanging up, I turned to Michael, who was looking at me with a mixture of awe and concern. "Are you really going to press charges?" he asked. "Yes," I said without hesitation. "They need to face consequences for once in their lives. Maybe then they will finally understand that actions have repercussions." 3 days later, Eleanor and Brittany arrived at Seattle Airport, where Derek and 2 officers were waiting. They were arrested on charges of grand theft, conspiracy, and fraud. The evidence against them was overwhelming: the surveillance video, the GPS data, their social media posts, the recorded phone call, and multiple witnesses who had observed their unusual behavior before the theft. Their initial court appearance was a surreal experience. I sat in the back of the courtroom watching as they entered in handcuffs. Eleanor looking older and smaller than I remembered, Brittany's face blotchy from crying. They both glared at me with naked hatred when they spotted me. Their public defender argued for leniency, claiming it was a family misunderstanding and that no actual money had been stolen since the cash was fake. The prosecutor countered that the intent was clear and that the elaborate planning showed premeditation. The judge set bail at $500,000 each, an amount neither could afford. As they were led away, Eleanor turned toward me one last time. "I raised you," she spat. "Everything you are is because of me. You owe me." I did not respond, simply watching, as the bailiff escorted her back to the holding cell. Her words might once have cut deep, making me question my decision. But now they only confirmed what I already knew. She had never seen me as a daughter to love, but as an investment expected to yield returns. Over the following weeks, as the case progressed through the legal system, I received multiple calls and messages from Eleanor and Brittany, alternating between pleading for help and threatening revenge. I forwarded each one to Derek without response. Eventually, faced with the mountain of evidence against them, both accepted plea deals. Eleanor received 3 years in state prison, while Brittany, who the court determined had been heavily influenced by her mother, received 18 months with the possibility of parole after 6. The day after the sentencing, I received a letter from Brittany delivered by her attorney. "I know you will never forgive us," she wrote. "I would not either. But I want you to know that I am sorry. Not just for trying to take the money, but for all of it, for years of jealousy and competition that Mom encouraged. You deserved better from both of us." Whether her remorse was genuine or simply another manipulation, I could not be sure. But as I settled into my beautiful new home, I found that it no longer mattered. I had finally freed myself from the emotional labyrinth of trying to earn love from people incapable of giving it unconditionally. The Victorian mansion overlooking Lake Washington became more than just a home. It became a symbol of my liberation. Each room I renovated and decorated represented another layer of healing, another step toward creating the life I wanted, free from the toxic patterns of my past. I dedicated the first month to the library, lining the walls with books I had always wanted to read but never had time for. In the evenings, I would sit in a window seat, overlooking the lake, reading as the sun set over the water, finding peace in the simple pleasure of solitude. Michael was a constant support, never pushing but always present when I needed him. Unlike Eleanor and Brittany, who had seen my success as something to exploit, Michael celebrated my achievements without trying to claim credit or benefit. It was a new experience, being loved for who I was rather than what I could provide. "You know what surprised me most about all this?" I told him one evening as we sat on the wraparound porch. "Not that they tried to steal from me, but how little I actually felt when they did. Like I had been expecting it my whole life, and was almost relieved when it finally happened." "Because now you can stop waiting for the other shoe to drop," he observed. "The worst has happened, and you survived. More than survived, you prevailed." 6 months after Eleanor and Brittany began serving their sentences, I received a request from the prison counselor working with Brittany. She had been participating in a restorative justice program and wanted to meet with me. After considerable thought, I agreed. The prison visiting room was stark and impersonal, a painful contrast to the warm, inviting spaces I had created in my new home. Brittany entered wearing a standard-issue uniform, her hair pulled back, her face devoid of makeup. Without her usual, carefully constructed appearance, she looked younger and more vulnerable. "Thank you for coming," she said softly as she sat across from me. "I did not think you would." "I almost did not," I admitted. "I deserve that," she acknowledged. "I deserve all of this." She gestured around at the prison visiting room. "What did you want to talk about, Brittany?" She took a deep breath. "I have been doing a lot of therapy in here. A lot of thinking about why I am the way I am, why I did what I did. And I keep coming back to Mom, how she always pitted us against each other, how she made me believe I was entitled to things I had not earned." I remained silent, waiting for her to continue. "That is not an excuse," she added quickly. "I made my own choices, but I am trying to understand the patterns so I can break them. And I wanted you to know that I see now how she manipulated both of us, just in different ways." She convinced you that you were special and deserved everything without effort, I said. And she convinced me that I was unworthy and had to earn every scrap of approval. Brittany nodded, tears filling her eyes. And the sick thing is, she made us both so desperate for her love that we accepted those roles. I became exactly what she wanted, a self-centered extension of herself. And you kept trying to prove your worth even though nothing was ever enough for her. The insight surprised me. I had not expected this level of self-awareness from Brittany, who had spent her life avoiding difficult truths. The counselor says Mom shows signs of narcissistic personality disorder, she continued. She cannot feel empathy the way normal people do. We were never really children to her, just objects to fulfill her needs. And what about you? I asked. What do you want now? Brittany wiped her eyes. I want to find out who I am without her influence. I want to earn things for myself, build something real. And someday, if you could ever consider it, I would like a chance to know my sister, the real you, not the competitor Mom made you out to be. I did not make any promises that day. The damage done over decades could not be repaired in a single conversation. But as I left the prison, I felt something I had not expected, the faint possibility of a different kind of relationship with Brittany in the future, one built on truth rather than competition. Eleanor, however, remained unchanged. The few communications I received from her continued to alternate between blaming me for her situation and demanding that I use my resources to help her. I eventually instructed the prison to stop forwarding her letters. As my first year in the new house came to a close, I hosted a small gathering to celebrate. Jessica was there with her husband Michael, of course, and a few close friends and colleagues who had supported me through the ordeal. Notably absent were any family members, a fact that no longer filled me with sadness or regret. I would like to make a toast, Michael said, raising his glass as we all gathered in the library, to Samantha, who showed us all what real strength looks like. Not just in building a successful company or buying this beautiful home, but in having the courage to see the truth about her family and set appropriate boundaries even when it was painful. After everyone had gone home, Michael and I stood on the back terrace overlooking the lake. The full moon cast a silver path across the water, and in the distance the Seattle skyline twinkled with countless lights. I have been thinking, he said, taking my hand. This house is amazing, but it still feels like your house, your sanctuary. I was wondering if you might consider it becoming our house someday. He pulled a small box from his pocket and opened it to reveal a vintage emerald ring. No pressure and no rush, he added quickly. Just something to think about when you are ready. I looked at the ring, then at Michael, then at the beautiful home I had created for myself. A year ago, I would have hesitated, questioning whether I deserved such happiness, or whether I could trust anyone enough to share my life. But now, having faced my deepest fears about family and betrayal and emerged stronger, I found the answer came easily. Yes, I said simply. I would like that very much. Later that night, I wrote a final letter to Eleanor, not to be mailed, but as a form of personal closure. I forgive you. I wrote not because you deserve forgiveness or have asked for it, but because holding on to anger only gives you continued power over my life. I release you from any obligation to be the mother I needed, and I release myself from the endless quest to earn your approval. We are both free now to be exactly who we are. The journey from that terrible morning, when I discovered the theft, to this moment of peace had been long and painful. But as I sealed the letter and placed it in my desk drawer, I realized that what had initially seemed like the worst betrayal had actually been the catalyst for my greatest freedom. The $10 million had never been stolen, but something infinitely more valuable had been revealed. The truth that family is not defined by blood, but by actions, that love is not an obligation, but a choice, and that sometimes the greatest gift we can give ourselves is the courage to see people as they truly are, not as we wish them to be. If you have ever had to make the difficult choice to distance yourself from toxic family members, I would love to hear your story in the comments. How did you find the strength to set boundaries? Did you eventually reconcile, or was separation the healthiest choice? Please like this video if my story resonated with you, subscribe to hear more real-life experiences, and share with someone who might need to know they are not alone in facing family betrayal. Remember, the family you choose can be more meaningful than the family you were born into. Thank you for listening, and may you find the courage to create the life you deserve, surrounded by people who truly value you.